Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back from lunch. It's been an exciting week of Frontiers thus far. On Monday, we announced that Slack was available in English, and yesterday we announced that Slack is available in English, Spanish, German, French, and soon to be Japanese. On Monday, round of applause for that. On Monday, we had shared channels running in beta. And yesterday, we let you all know that we have shared channels running in beta. So this session is titled, How to Get the Most from Slack Every Day. And my name is Karishma Kothari. I lead our Enterprise Solutions Engineering team here at Slack. And I am so fired up to be here running this session and talking to you all about this today, because I've been at Slack for a little over 2 years now. And in that time, this conversation of how can I get the most out of Slack, and how can I make sure, what are some ways that I can use Slack beyond messaging, that's a common theme of conversations I've had with customers. And in the time that I've been here, I've been able to work with hundreds of customers here at Slack across a variety of different industries, including many of you that are in the room here today. So this session is going to be a little bit unique than a couple of the other ones that you've seen thus far. We're actually going to be doing a little bit of live demonstrating here up on the screen, so we're actually going to look at Slack through the day in the life of a user. I'll give a little disclaimer that no demo is complete without technical glitches, so please do bear with me if we do encounter any along the way. But the other thing that I would say is that this is also designed to be a little bit of a Slack 201 session, so assuming a little bit of a baseline understanding of Slack. But we're going to explore some native Slack capabilities that are a little bit more hidden or advanced, and then also talk about how powerful integrations can be leveraged to really help streamline people's workflow and ultimately allow you to get the most out of Slack. Now, before I get into the demo, and I promise we'll get into that, which I know you're all here to see, I would love to poll the audience real quick. Has anyone here heard of a term called organizational drag? Okay, very few of you. Now, I've been known to make up terms. I promise this is not a word that I made up, but organizational drag refers to this idea that there is a lot of friction in the workplace today, and that friction adds undue time and process to getting things done. If you think about it, that friction is the time spent searching for information, right? It's the time reading through extraneous emails, just trying to figure out what is the most important thing, or what is the work that you actually need to be doing and responding to. There's a study by Bain & Company that actually estimates that organizational drag and that friction in the workplace actually accounts for a 20% loss of productivity. And so when you factor all of that time spent searching for information, reading extraneous emails, attending meetings that you didn't even need to be a part of, all of that really, really adds up. And you've heard sprinkles of this throughout other sessions, right? Slack, from my perspective, Slack is focused on reducing the friction it takes to get work done, so you and your employees can spend more time actually getting work done. So with that, here you have on the screen here a fictional company, Frontiers, Inc., and this is where we're going to be running and showing a little bit of the demo out of. So Frontiers, Inc. is a virtual reality company. They build and manufacture virtual reality headsets and sell them to other companies. So a B2B type company here. And we're looking at Slack through the lens of Karina. So Karina Shaw, she's a sales executive at Frontiers. Interestingly enough, her face bears a striking resemblance to my own, but I promise you she actually works at Frontiers and is a sales executive over there. So as a sales executive, Karina's jobs and responsibilities vary on a day-to-day basis, right? Her core focus is centered around working closely with her customers, helping them purchase and acquire virtual reality headsets. Internally, Karina spends a lot of time working with companies like working with teams like marketing and legal and finance on all of the paperwork and things it takes to actually get contracts done, get business done. And then, of course, above and beyond that, Karina spends a lot of time internally learning and keeping up to date with how the company is progressing and internal topics like the holiday party planning that you see going on here. So, like many of you in the room, Karina starting her day is a surprise. she's constantly juggling between the internal priorities of the work that needs to happen and the external priorities of working with her customers. And in a traditional world, right, this could look like juggling hundreds of different emails, sifting through them and trying to figure out where is it that the most important information lives, and where should she be spending those critical first few hours of her morning actually getting work done. I'm sure those of you that are kind of on the spectrum of light Slack users or not yet Slack users are probably going to be facing this same juggle tomorrow morning when you return back into the office. So with Slack, as you see up on the screen here, right, all of the conversations are easily organized here through various channels, whether they're customer-related channels about different accounts, whether announcements channels, forecasting channels, and things like that. So Slack, by nature, makes it easy with channels to easily organize content and information. But up on the left, right, what you see here is an all unread section. And this is actually an optional feature that you can turn on in Slack. Think of all unreads as kind of your personalized news briefing of the day, where instead of having to click through the different channels and topics of conversations, you simply come into all unreads and you get to see all of the different conversations where work is happening in Slack. But we realize that not all channels are created equal, right? Karina probably doesn't need to spend the critical first few hours of her morning catching up on the holiday party channel. Perhaps she needs to spend time focusing on other things. And that's why we have a capability called highlights. So highlights, as you heard a little bit about with Noah Weiss on stage earlier today, is a capability that actually uses machine learning and intelligence layer on top of Slack to allow Slack to predict and tell you what are the messages that might be most important to you. And we do this by actually analyzing things like impressions, emoji reactions to messages to predict and let you know, hey, Karina, we think that these are some conversations that might be most important to you. So I'm actually going to go ahead and click to view here and take a look at what highlights is showing me, right? Here we see highlights is talking about something important happening in the forecasting channel, also an exciting win note that we want to deal. Those are all things that I care about, likely more than the holiday party planning, as I said earlier. What's great about highlights is that it gets smarter and smarter over time as well, learning from your preferences and feedback to constantly evolve and make sure that it's curating and suggesting to you the most important information as it continues to learn from your preferences. So in this example, you see Andrew, who's maybe my VP of sales. He's got an important request to send information about customers that he should meet while in LA. So we're going to go ahead and actually click into that right here, into the forecasting channel, and there you see that message. Now, this is so common. What happens when work takes us outside of Slack, right? We heard in yesterday's keynote session that the average enterprise has thousands of different apps in their ecosystem. Each app has a purpose, contains different type of data, and in the average employee's workday, they're hopping in and out of these applications to get work done. So in this example, with Karina, maybe this request actually takes her to Salesforce, which is the CRM of choice that Frontiers, Inc. uses to store information about customers. Friction, and when we think about friction in the workplace, it's a little bit of context switching, right? For Karina to go and respond to this request from Andrew, she might actually have to leave Slack, go into Salesforce, look up the name of the account or information that she wants to actually then pass back and share to Andrew, her VP of sales. With the power of Slack and Salesforce and the integration that we have, if you bring in links from Salesforce, that actually unfurls directly into Slack itself and provides a layer of context. But what we also have the ability to do is directly from inside Slack, run a search query for information that lives in Salesforce. So let's take a look at what that might look like. Let's say, for example, that I work with a customer, Belfast. They're one of my strategic customers in LA, and I want my VP of sales to go and meet Belfast. What I can go ahead and do is actually just type Salesforce Belfast, and you'll see here that Salesforce is actually, we're able to query a search from Salesforce and bring that back into Slack. And I can come here, show details. The next thing that I can do, because if you see, it's a little bit hidden, but right now, that action of me running that search query inside of Slack, pulling up the particular account that I wanted to, is actually only visible to me. But through a message button, I can actually just click and post that to a conversation. So now, what we've actually just done is we've associated information from Salesforce into Slack and allowed these two systems to work together more seamlessly. And there are a number of different use cases and scenarios and conversations where work is happening, where sales folks might need to bring in information from Salesforce. So that's certainly powerful, but if anyone here is a sales rep in the room or works with sales reps, you'll know that one of the biggest points of friction for a salesperson is actually managing their forecast, managing their book of business, keeping opportunities up to date, right? That's friction because salespeople, they want to be working, they want to be talking to customers on the phone. Perhaps one of the last things they want to be doing is finding themselves going into another extraneous system, having to update information. Slack's ecosystem of applications is really designed around delivering rich experiences with other systems inside of Slack. And hopefully, if all of you have gotten a chance to take a look downstairs and meet with some of our partners in our ecosystem, you've heard a little bit about that. One of the integrations I wanted to actually highlight for a salesperson and for Karina is actually a tool called Troops. So what Troops actually does is has built a connector between Salesforce and Slack so that you can actually interact with Salesforce content and manipulate Salesforce data directly from Slack. So let's take a look at what that looks like. By simply typing Troops, and maybe I want to pull up a report for a forecast, that one command, Troops is now actually going into Salesforce, grabbing the appropriate information, and here you see an opportunity report with all of the opportunities that I'm working for this particular quarter, as well as the amount that you see there on the right. And now, let's say, for example, that in pulling up this opportunity as a sales rep, Karina realizes that she still has this opportunity forecasted for $1 million, but she might have just gotten off of the phone with Belfast, and actually they just talked about upping that and actually looking for a $2 million opportunity. Really exciting for a salesperson, right? And I'm sure that Karina's VP of Sales wants to know if that opportunity size is increasing. If we actually just close out of here, one of the other things that Karina can do using the power of Troops is actually just type Troops Belfast. And here you see, again, Troops is querying Salesforce, showing that there's an opportunity here for Belfast. She can come in, log a call, but she can also come in and actually edit a field here. So, like I said earlier, we're talking about a $2 million opportunity, right? Let me go ahead and just do this. Go ahead and modify the amount and enter in a new value. See if I can get the right number of zeros here. That looks good. We're going to go $20 million opportunity, even better. Karina's going to have a record year in sales. And we're going to go ahead and hit save. So what you just saw was Karina, a sales executive, going about a very common thing that she has to in her day, managing her pipeline, updating her opportunities, all through the power of Slack and through the Troops integration that you see here. Her entire workflow was able to take just a couple of steps, right? She didn't need to be hopping between different applications, running search queries in different systems, and wasting time clicking around just to update an opportunity amount. And what you just saw was how Slack can be leveraged through powerful integrations to streamline a salesperson's workflow. But I recognize that many of you in the room here likely are not in sales. So I think the power of the ecosystem and the power of integration still holds true, right? Whether your world centers around tools like ServiceNow, Greenhouse, WorkRamp for training and enablement and onboarding, it's that interactive, rich experience that apps are that are brought to life in Slack that you're able to see, and that's really going to enable you to up-level your Slack usage and allow people to use Slack in ways beyond just messaging. Now, one of the most popular apps that's out there in the ecosystem today for companies are the content management tools like Box, Dropbox, Google Drive. Actually, can I get a quick poll in the audience again? Stretch your arms out a little bit here. Who here works at a company that uses either Box, Dropbox, Google Drive? Almost all of us. Okay. Now, keep your hands up, actually. Keep your hands up if you have ever received a link to a file only to get a message that says, sorry, you don't have permissions to this file, or sent that to someone else only to find that they didn't have permissions to the file. Good. I'm glad to know that I'm not alone here. And this is a safe space, so I'll share a little bit of an embarrassing story. About a year ago, I sent a colleague a file and asked them to read it and review it for me and provide feedback the next morning. And when I got into the meeting with that colleague the next morning and I asked, did you read the file? Do you have feedback for me? And he said no. I immediately went to reprimand him and say, I asked you to do this. Let's talk about that. I was embarrassed to find out that the sole reason that he couldn't access or read that file was because I forgot to give him permissions to that file. And when we think about friction in the workplace, sometimes it's the little things, right? By me forgetting to give someone access to a file, maybe me forgetting to give my VP access to a proposal that I needed his or her approval on, that's friction that's actually taking away from my ability to get work done. That's adding undue delay to our ability to get that proposal approved, and move along and close business ultimately. So you heard earlier today that we have our Google Drive bot announcement and integration, which allows you to do really cool things like get updates when files are updated or comments are applied to files. One of the things that you didn't hear about that we'll actually be covering today is what that experience looks like when you share files in Slack. So by clicking this plus button here, what I actually have the ability to do is go in and add a file from Google Drive. I'll go ahead and search for the particular file I'm looking for. And let's say that I actually want to look for a proposal file. It's going to be a contract proposal, as we talked about. We now have a $20 million proposal out that we owe to get to Belfast. And so I want to go ahead, and before I share this out with the customer, I actually want to come in here and get my VP's approval on it. So I'm going to go ahead and select that customer proposal here, and I'm going to share it in this channel. Now, what do you see here? And I know it's a little bit small. It might be a little small for those of you in the back, so I'll read it out. There's actually a message from Slackbot that says, hey, it looks like customer proposal isn't viewable by everyone in this channel. Do you want to use the options below to change who has access to the file? And I can simply come in here and update that using what the Google Drive options are. I'm going to go ahead and say, I want them to view this file. So what you just saw was actually Slack doing the hard work for you. Slack and Google Drive being intelligent on your behalf about what is this file, what channel are you sharing this file in, and are we about to experience some friction here? Are the people that you're trying to share this document with actually going to be able to view it, provide their feedback, or their thumbs up on that proposal? And this is something so small and so simple, right? But it's the things like this that really help reduce that friction and make it easier for people to get work done. Because now, the minute I know that I've put this proposal into this channel, I know that when my VP comes in and he or she takes a look at it, reviews it, gives his thumbs up, that's all that needs to happen. I'm not going to get a message tomorrow from him saying, sorry, I actually didn't have access to the file. Let's review this next week, or let's review this the following day. So, as I mentioned in the beginning of this, yesterday we heard an exciting announcement that we have shared channels in beta. And those of you that were at the keynote yesterday, we got to hear a little bit about how Away uses Slack with Jen Rubio and Nate, and talking a little bit about how that's completely changed the way in which they work. And we're really excited about the possibilities for shared channels, because if you think about it, all of us, regardless of your function, whether it's sales, marketing, IT, legal, we all work with other businesses. And shared channels really has limitless possibilities for how this can transform the way that businesses work with other businesses. So what you actually see here is a new section that those of you that haven't been using shared channels yet, which is most of us, right, don't have in your Slack instance. And that's a section called shared channels. And what you note here is that there's a little bit of a diamond icon that denotes that this channel is a little bit different. And what you see here, just to kind of familiarize yourself with what a shared channel actually looks like, conceptually it's very similar, but on the right-hand side, in channel details, you'll actually be able to see what are the different companies or organizations that have access to this workspace. And in this instance, as a sales executive working with a couple of key strategic customers, we've actually set up this new way of working between two businesses, right? Karina and the deal team, no deal gets done alone. So the entire deal team that's working with Belfast on getting them $20 million worth of virtual reality headsets has this workspace set up with Belfast. And this is enabling them to work in a whole new way, because all of the conversations that it takes from idea of, hey, we want to roll out $20 million worth of virtual reality headsets, to, hey, we need to do pricing negotiations, we need to do legal paperwork, takes a lot of people on each side, right? And so if you scroll down here, what you can actually see is that the conversations and the work that's happening on getting this deal done are happening not only with internal folks like N and Julie on my team over at Frontiers, but you'll also notice through this icon here that we have folks externally like Robin and Sean and Simone over at Belfast who are all involved in getting this deal done. And when you open up shared channels and this B2B way of working together on the Slack network, what actually becomes interesting is that we can bring in new people to this conversation in that same seamless and fluid way that we expect when we think about the internal communication and collaboration that many of us are used to with Slack. So I could come in here, for example, and maybe I want to invite in Andrew. Just by typing /invite, Andrew gets access to this channel, and maybe Robin and Sean, as they know that the next thing we need to do is actually review this updated proposal, that they need to bring in their legal team. They can go ahead and do the same things. A /invite, bring in the legal team to the conversation. They now have all of the historical context of how we've been working together on this deal, right? So this is pretty powerful, and we're really, really excited about all of the different ways in which companies can start to use shared channels to really turn upside down the way that businesses work with one another and allow people to have that same streamlined way of collaborating and communicating and working together in a B2B type scenario. But one of the other things that's really powerful about shared channels, as you heard, is that work doesn't just happen in email today, or work doesn't just happen in communication, right? We all use different applications when we work with other businesses, whether it's document repositories like Dropbox, Google Drive, etc. Probably one of the most common ones that we use when we think about businesses working with other businesses is teleconferencing tools like Zoom, like WebEx. What I want to actually show now is one of the launch partners that we have with shared channels, and that's actually Zoom, and the ability to seamlessly create and start a Zoom call directly inside of this shared channel in Slack. Because this is a common scenario, right? I'm about to send over a $20 million proposal to Belfast. I don't just want to throw that proposal in this shared channel. I might actually want to come in and say, hey, let's all have a conversation together and jump on a quick screen share to talk about this. Now, natively in Slack, of course, I could come in here and start a call, or I could simply type Zoom meeting and actually maybe set the agenda for what this meeting and topic is going to cover and say, meeting, discuss our 20 million deal, and press enter. Now, what you just saw right here was actually me by simply talking to Slack real quick and saying /Zoom, start a conference. I've now clicked to create a new teleconference with Zoom. I can come in here and join. Andrew, who just came into the channel, got access to some of the historical context, can come in and join. And folks on the Belfast side can join that conference as well. And we can all work together faster in a more streamlined way to get this deal over the finish line. So we heard yesterday, right, that the average enterprise has over 1,000 applications in their ecosystem. And I'm going to guess that the integrations here that I've just demoed likely look very different than the tech stacks that many of your companies in the room here use. But I think that when we think about how do you get the most out of Slack, it really boils down into two things, right? Number one, you get the most out of Slack when you use Slack to reduce the friction and reduce those points of painful context switching between different applications. But you also get the most out of Slack when you allow Slack and our powerful ecosystem of integrations to do the thinking for you, whether it's through our intelligence layer and capabilities like highlights or through Google Drive Bot and allowing it to let you know, hey, Karina, make sure that who you're sharing the file with actually gets access to that file. We really believe that this powerful ecosystem of integrations can help reduce context switching and ultimately allow people to spend more time working in a way that allows them to be more productive. And so with that, I want to wrap up and thank you guys so much for taking the time to view our demo here. I'm going to stick around a little bit after. If anybody has questions, just want to stop by and say hello, please do feel free to do so. Also feel free to email me, kkothari@slackcorp.com. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we finish up. Number one, if you could go ahead and share your thoughts. We'd love to hear any constructive or otherwise feedback that you have on this session. Go ahead and fill out the survey via the Frontiers mobile application. And then we're going to take a short break, and at 2 o'clock, the breakouts continue. We're going to do a deep dive on this stage into some more of the search, learning, and intelligence capabilities with Isaiah. So feel free to stick around. Thank you so much, everyone.